Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Assalamu alaikum everyone and welcome to another day or another session for the lunch live stream. Inshallah, we are back with another day or another lunch live stream under the timely reminders. And the whole idea or the whole purpose to the lunch live stream is to be able to provide ourselves with some form of inputs, to nourish our spirituality. Because for most of us, we may be fasting, we may be going through our Ramadan, not being able to eat and drink like how we used to do in the month of and outside the month of Ramadan during our lunchtime. So we hope that we can nourish our soul, nourish our spirituality, and Alhamdulillah, we are still now under this whole theme or under this whole topic of wanting to distinguish or wanting to understand and identify these two groups of people. One would be the people of Dunya, and then one would be the people of Iman. So Alhamdulillah, we have went through the first four sessions of the lunch live stream, and we have seen, the different ways for us to identify. But then again, identifying these things is not a means for us to label people or to box people up, but it really is a means for us to be able to reflect upon ourselves and see how we can do better, inshallah, this Ramadan. Because at the end of the day, we want to exit Ramadan becoming a better person, better than how we entered the month of Ramadan. And of course, the whole ideal or the whole concept of Ramadan and fasting is so that we are able to achieve taqwa, right? As Allah mentions in Surah Al-Baqarah, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. So in the course of taqwa, in the course of God consciousness, in the course of piety, we reach that point through our actions and through the attempts of coming close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is how we start to try to identify where we are at and look at how we can work towards betterment, inshallah. Okay, so for those of you who are joining on different platforms, we are currently going live from both our Facebook page as well as through our Instagram. So whichever that you are tuning in into today's lunch live stream, I hope that you are comfortable, inshallah. And today will be the final day or the final part to the first week's theme of the people of dunya and the people of iman or the people of faith, inshallah. So Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So as for today, we are specifically looking at distinguishing these two groups of people through their attempts of prayer. Okay, and as we all know, with regards to the month of Ramadan, Ramadan is a prestigious month because we are gifted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala this gift of Taraweeh prayer that we are not able to do it outside of the month of Ramadan. It's only special for the month of Ramadan, and which is why we see, a lot of us who are very much excited, to experience Ramadan and to fulfill our Taraweeh prayers. But I guess in our context here, uh, you know, last year most of us, or in fact all of us, we would perform our Tarawih prayers at home. But Alhamdulillah, this year, we have a little bit of the privilege and access to perform our Tarawih prayers at the mosque. Although not every day, although maybe just 3 days, although it could just be a one night experience, but at least we want to work towards that. And I understand that a lot of us might also be craving for the presence of doing the Tarawih prayers in the mosque, with the very enlightening environment, and really feeling Ramadan through our interactions, right, and our obligations done in the mosque. But at the end of the day, we really want to go back to the root of the Tarawih itself, right? The whole satisfaction of performing Tarawih in the particular month of Ramadan. So we are looking at these two categories of people, right? So one would be the people of dunya, and then one would be the people of faith or the people of iman. So for the people of dunya, some of the things that we can observe, be in terms of our own selves, or maybe towards, the people around us. Maybe we have seen, or maybe we have experienced it firsthand. It would be that, perhaps, for the people of dunya, they would continue to fast, during the month of Ramadan, during the day, because it's an obligation that they have to do. But when it comes to the night, the night where we are able to perform this Tarawih prayer, they might find it as something that is troublesome, or they might find themselves, dragging their feet to offer even the shortest amount of the Tarawih prayer. right? And this is not because they have to wake up early the next day for work, or many of the reasons that they might have to prevent them to perform the tarawih prayers. But they find this whole idea of prayer, this whole idea of salat, as something that is a heavy burden. And this is not something that is out of the ordinary. In fact, it is something that has been mentioned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself. And we can find this as mentioned in Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 45, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم واستعينوا بالصبر والصلاة وإنها لكبيرة إلا على الخاشعين. So through this verse we see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mention, so he reminds us that okay, when we are going through a trouble, when we want to seek help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is best that we seek help through these two mediums, or these two areas, which is through sabr and through salah, through patience and through prayer. Right? It is a means for us to not just connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but it is a way for us to seek help, seek guidance from Allah through our daily affairs. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues the verse with what innaha lakabiratun. So Allah says, and it is difficult. And Allah is not saying that the patience part and the prayer part is difficult. When Allah mentions innaha, the ha is actually referring to the salah, the prayer that was mentioned earlier. So Allah is telling us that okay, we seek help through patience, we seek help through prayer, but the real deal is that prayer is something that is difficult. Prayer could potentially be something that people might seem as a heavy burden for them to perform. And if we were to reflect on just praying the five daily prayers, there are days where, mashallah, our iman is at its peak, is at its highest, and then we feel that it's very much easy for us to fulfill the prayers, right? To fulfill the daily prayers. But there are days where we find it difficult for us to even fulfill things which are obligatory. And what more, when we add on supplicatory prayers, when we add on voluntary prayers, and when we talk about the month of Ramadan, right, we also have our Tarawih prayers. So on one hand, fulfilling the obligation is already difficult. So what more if we talk about the things which are additional, things we put on top of the things which are obligatory. And but then again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as much as he mentions the nature of human beings with regards to prayer, that they might find prayer as difficult, lakabiratun, right? Allah mentions an exception for that. Allah says, wa innaha lakabiratun illa ala al-khashi'in. Prayer is difficult except for the humbly submissive to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which means that prayer is difficult except for those who has placed this form of intention and desire to wanting to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for those who submit purely towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in their prayer. And one of the ways that can potentially help us to reach that point, or to achieve this whole ordeal of being those who are humbly submissive, it is when we try to implement focus and the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala outside of our prayer. When we talk about khushu, when we talk about wanting to focus in our prayer, praying earnestly, for some of us we might find it difficult. Because the moment we mention Allahu Akbar, and the moment when we start our prayer, that is when 1,001 thoughts would come in, and then we start to think about all of the affairs of the world. And then at that point, somehow we are reminded of many other things that we forget outside of the prayer. So there is a lot of challenges, when we perform that prayer. And sometimes we might find it difficult to focus in prayer. But one of the things that can help us to focus better in prayer is our remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala outside of prayer. Sometimes the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not made as something that is a habit. So which is why when we want to pray, when we want to remember Allah, it gets difficult because it's not our habit. We're just forcing ourselves to remember Allah at that short amount of time, in which that outside of the prayer, we are not at all remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through the things that we are doing. So it is not a practice, it is not a habit, which is why when prayer comes around, it's difficult for us to focus, right? And another thing for us to take note of would be that whatever that we do outside of prayer will affect our focus in prayer. So a lot of times we think, or we feel that, oh, okay, whatever that I do outside of prayer is totally a separate thing with regards to my obligations of the fard, right? The five daily prayers. But whatever that we do outside of it will affect, our state of prayer, our focus in prayer, and our desire to want to pray in the first place. Okay, so that would be one of the many. And of course, there are many other factors. Perhaps we do not understand why we pray. Perhaps we do not see the rewards and the magnitude and the benefits out of praying. So perhaps these are some of the things that we might want to consider to help us to reach to that point of khushu'in, to reach to that point of being a humbly submissive to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it really is beautiful how khushu'in is translated as humbly submissive, because not only that when we pray, we are submitting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but we are putting ourselves at a point of humbleness, practicing humility in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Ya Allah, I don't prostrate to anybody else, I don't pray to anybody else or anything else, but I'm, putting my best self, the things that make me special, right, which is the mind, which is the brain, down to the ground, down to the level of the feet, because I want to pray to you, because I want to remind myself of my place as a servant to you. I'm only a servant and you are my master. Okay, so yes, prayer may be difficult. Prayer may be something that for some of us we might find it as a burden or a hassle, but it doesn't mean that we cannot do things to help us with that. Okay, so that would be a little bit about the glimpse for the people of Dunya with regards to prayers. So if we want to look at on the other side or the flip side or the other category, which is the people of Iman, right? How are they with regards to prayer? How are they with regards to their Taraweeh prayer? So for the people of Iman or for the people of faith, they would prepare, for the month of Ramadan by putting together a sort of action plan. Right, so not only that they plan for their Ramadan, but they ensure that the things that they have planned can be put into action in terms of their Taraweeh prayers, in terms of their good deeds, in terms of fulfilling their fasting to the best of their ability. So and this is where, for the people of Iman, the people of faith, not only that they want to check off the things on their list with regards to maximizing their Ramadan, but they don't settle with their targets. Okay, in a sense that, they don't tell themselves, okay, this Ramadan, I want to read as much Quran as possible. This Ramadan, I want to fast to the best of my ability. This Ramadan, I want to pray Taraweeh to whatever that I can. So they don't make their goals as something that is very vague, but they really specify what kind of goal, what kind of achievement I want to achieve. Because if we keep it at a vague level, right, a general level, we might be a little bit complacent. Right? Sometimes, this Ramadan I want to read as much Quran as possible. But we don't define as much. We don't define the quantity that we want to achieve. Yes, quality is much more important than quantity, as what we have spoken in the past few lunch live streams. But at the end of the day, we have to set a specific, clear goal so we know where we are headed to. So, for example, this Ramadan, I want to read more of the Quran. How much more? Right? Is it one page per day? Is it one juice per day? Right? So when you specify these things, you know where you are headed to, and as I mentioned earlier, you don't be complacent, right? You have a sort of target that you want to achieve, and if you are not able to achieve that particular target this day, then you bring it forward to the next day, so you have more to complete. Okay, so instead, they would continuously take control and know exactly what they want out of the month of Ramadan. So it's being mindful, it's being aware, it's being objective on how they want to go about with regards to their prayer. And it could be that outside of Ramadan, mashallah, alhamdulillah, they have been taking care of their prayers. So maybe this Ramadan, we might want to be a little bit more mindful in our prayer. We want to be more intentional in our prayer. We want to ensure that whatever that we recite in our prayer are the things in which that we understand its meaning, that it will bring about this whole quality with regards to our prayer in Ramadan. But of course, as much as Taraweeh is concerned, we also need to be aware that Taraweeh is not an obligatory. Taraweeh is a sunnah, right? A supplicatory. So to some extent or to some days, if you are not able to fulfill it, then it's okay. it is not something that is an obligation, but we want to take this Ramadan a chance to be able to perform those tarawih prayers, right? If we are able to only do it at a bare minimum, then alhamdulillah, at least we are performing it. If we are blessed with more energy, more time to do more, then we seize that moment, because the moments later are not guaranteed, and even our Ramadan tomorrow, right, is not guaranteed. So we do whatever that we can with the blessing of life and the chance that we have at this moment to do what we can to the best of our abilities, inshallah. And perhaps one of the things that could inspire us, that could motivate us further to want to do more of our worship, specifically our prayer, is that in which where we start to see that, mashallah, this is where we go back to the whole story of Isra Mi'raj, on how initially it is ordained for us to pray 50 times a day, but alhamdulillah, it has been decreased to 5 times a day. But it is in the mercy and love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He tells us that if we take care of these 5 daily prayers, we'll be rewarded as though we are performing 50 of the prayers, right? 50 times of the prayers in our daily. And perhaps sometimes that could be the contributing factor of why prayers is difficult or prayer is heavy, because it may seem as 5, but the weight of the prayer is that of 50, right? But as much as weight is concerned, when we put in more effort into performing a certain obligation, and especially when performing a certain obligation gets difficult, know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewards us for our effort. Know that Allah rewards us for trying, and know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees how much we perceive the importance of prayer in our daily lives, and how much we want prayers, especially in the month of Ramadan, to be a means for us to transform ourselves to be a better version of ourselves, inshallah. A better version of ourselves when we exit Ramadan as compared to how we entered Ramadan. Okay, so yeah, alhamdulillah, we have come to the end of our short discussion today for our lunch live stream for timely reminders. So I hope that these short reminders can benefit us, can give us a little bit of boost in terms of our faith, in terms of our iman, in terms of our worship and prayer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And inshallah, the lunch live streams will continue tomorrow onwards. So inshallah, tomorrow onwards will be another person joining you for the lunch live stream, which will be one of the associate lecturers from Al Misbah Academy, inshallah. But I hope that through this humble first 5 days of the lunch live stream, it has benefited your time. You have learned something new, or maybe you are reminded of certain things. And I hope that this has given this extra boost for you to do more to the best of your capacity in the month of Ramadan, inshallah. Okay, and to also just share with all of you, the lunch live stream will not happen on Saturdays, because on Saturdays we have our soul food supplements, which will be happening at the night at 9 p.m. inshallah, with some of our speakers. So for that, you can actually visit Al Misbah Academy .com/, soulful supplements 2021 to register for that, to sit through the sessions. But alternatively, it will also be live streamed to YouTube, so you can also catch it on YouTube, and it will also be shared on Facebook after the session is done. So either way, you will still inshallah get access to the soulful supplements, and we hope that through this means we are able to not just benefit ourselves, but also benefit the people around us, and of course benefit this religion that we call Islam, inshallah. Okay, so yes, and also last but not least, if you want to contribute to any of the programs, or if you also want to sponsor some of the students, some of the seekers of knowledge, you can also find out more on Al Misbah Academy's website. So you can just go on there, and everything is there for you to find out more. But if you have any questions, you can always reach out to the officers, the admin officers, to clarify some of your doubts about the programs, inshallah. Okay, so yep, alhamdulillah, thank you so much everybody for joining, for your hearts, for your comments, for your waves, for those joining on Facebook or those on Instagram. And I pray for a blessed Ramadan ahead for all of you, inshallah. May we come closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for every single effort we put in the month of Ramadan, and may we remember to be a little bit more empathetic to the people around us and help them towards their cause of getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah. Okay, so that is all for today. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much, everybody, and have a great day ahead. All right, thank you. Thank you for your kind comments. Assalamu alaikum.